person in the White House is not aware of his own racism and of his own bigotry, his own prejudicial thinking. He is so out of touch with himself. He's so self-unaware of his being in bed with neo-Nazis. It is not the case that there were fine people on both sides. You can't make a claim to being a fine person if you're saying no Jews on the streets. The streets are ours. It was the KKK marching with torches and without robes. And he has to take the responsibility for encouraging these people to be out there and think that they can do that without any kind of recrimination. So speech matters. When you engage in hate speech, then you are going to send out, particularly if you're a person who's in a great leadership role, you're going to send out ripples of permission giving to other people who are prejudicial and bigoted. So we're in a really bad time in terms of the hater and divider in chief stirring up rancor and bigotry in this country. And it falls at the feet of Donald Trump. He's not the only one, but he's the chief one.
Well, yeah, but haven't we always faced huge divisions, or is there really a risk of dividing further, though?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We've always had this in America. Mm-hmm. That goes back to my point about the fact that the Civil War is really not over. We have a significant percentage of Americans who feel aggrieved, and we have a grievance politics, or politics of grievance right now, and that's being led by Trump and Bannon and all the people who are in sympathy with him, and also people who want to keep the Supreme Court as conservative as possible. Parenthetically, that is why pedophilia is overlooked, because we've got a politics of power wanting to make all of the court system as conservative as possible. So we're not going to criticize a pedophile and pedophilia and women's harassment if we can, keep putting more and more conservative people on the courts. Close parenthesis. Yes, that division has always been there, but division has become even worse. It's more tribalistic, I think, than it has been since before the 60s.
Okay, so then you were telling me recently, we talked, and you mentioned that you came across something pretty spectacular about you came across this natural phenomenon where it was like a type of tree that seemed like thousands of trees, but it was really one root. I was wondering if you could share that with listeners, because it was one of the most incredible things I've ever heard.
I would love to, and I'm really thrilled that both you're asking me the question and also that you two found it incredible. Yeah, in the 60s, scientists went into this grove of quaking aspen in southern Utah and tested his hypothesis that rather than being separate trees, they were actually sprouts coming from the same root ball. Found out that they were exact same DNA. So it literally is a one forest tree, and it is 106 acres in size, this root ball, and there are thousands of quaking aspen shoots that look like individual trees, and for all external purposes, the appearances, they are. However, they are one. And Hope and I, my wife and I, went with an organization at Claremont University that's founded by the theologian and philosopher John Cobb, called Pando Populus. And people can both Google Pando, P-A-N-D-O, it's Pando with an O instead of an A, and Pando Populous, and connect with the organization. And we are going to be having more road trips. And we went on this road trip, a prototype road trip, where we took scientists, philosophers, architects, designers, activists, theologians, priests, pastors, and educators and futurists. And we went and spent 3 days in this grove, and it was absolutely stunning. For me, it was a mystical experience. We went out and did scientific experiments. We also went out and sat and wrote poetry and fiction and nonfiction reflections. And we'll be continuing to do that. Nevertheless, it is for me a perfect symbol for the oneness of all creation, of all humanity and creation. Dr. King said that we are caught in a network of mutuality whereby injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And then he said, that is the way the universe is constructed. Well, the fact of the matter is, here is a perfect example of the way the universe is constructed. We truly are all one, and you and I are one. We all are coming from the same root ball, which for me is a beautiful symbol of what we call God.
That's great. So, well, I wanted to just thank you for taking the time. And what are you working on going forward? Like, do you have like a major goal that you have left, or going into this holiday season? Any sort of message you have about where Christianity or the lessons that we can find in Christ at this time of the year? People seem to pay attention more for obvious reasons, but sometimes you hear that, we're a post-Christian society, which I think is a load of bunk, or I'd like to think at least. So just, where do you, how do you feel about, keeping things relevant in a world where some or the media tell us, it doesn't matter or whatever, just not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, this time of year is a time for all of us to press the pause button and to just simply enter an attitude of gratitude, as our 12-step friends say it. The reality is that when you stop during your day, and both alone and with others, simply become conscious of those things and events and experiences and relationships for which you're grateful, that actually changes the biochemistry in your body. It also changes the electromagnetic field around you, sometimes called your aura, your energy field. It also changes the energy field and the space between you and other people. So it's a way of blessing the space between us, as John O'Donohue talked about. And gratitude is the key to that. So gratitude is something that we all need to bring into our awareness now, this week and through the new year. And you're right. I think it is a way that we are going to reclaim the essence of what the Christian gospel is pointing to, and that we're going to discover that this is a universal piece of good news. It's just not for one group of people who are on the in, as opposed to people who are on the out. And yes, my major project is twofold, is to continue in the future, is to continue to spread the good news of love for everyone, particularly in red state environments. And number two, to write a book about the theological and ideological thinking that has gotten us into this trouble, which I think is fear-based religion and fear-based ideology, and to learn how to replace it with a love-based theology and a love-based philosophy.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate those eloquent thoughts, and want to say thanks, as always, for being a good friend and being a good example to so many people for so many years. And, look forward to the next time you're in Pasadena, and hope to hear, more about you making news and getting awards. So thanks, Ed.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.
Really
care.
appreciate your work, Carl.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.